Hi, I'm going to talk about two nearly disastrous trips that we had on our sailing boat. We were extremely excited when we first purchased her. She was a 39-foot Bermuda sloop sailing vessel, and we purchased her in Cape Town Harbour. And this would be the boat that would eventually take us across the Atlantic Ocean. Now, being very, very excited about everything, I will show you later that from a psychological point of view, that excitement can also lead to possible disaster. Now, we took ownership of the boat from people that tried to cross the Atlantic Ocean, and they unfortunately had to turn back because his wife was consistently seasick, and he was starting to worry that her diaphragm may give way, and out there's no hospitals and no help. So unfortunately, after 14 days, they decided to turn back. And we purchased her, and she was nearly ready to cross the ocean. So when I took the keys from him, he had tears in his eyes, and I told him that, don't worry, we will chase your dream for you, and we will succeed in doing so. It was early in the morning when we set off from Cape Town to Hout Bay Harbour. That's just about maybe 15 sea miles or so. It's a very short trip. So I had my mum aboard, and my sister had her brother on board. So, everybody was excited. It was the start of a new life for us and all of that stuff. So off we went. There wasn't any wind at all, so we just motored through. And everything went well. We were day skippers at that point in time, so we had a bit of an idea of what to do. So, off we went. And later driving, if you know Cape Town, then driving on Chapman's Peak, on a clear day, you can see those rocks protruding in False Bay. So unbeknownst to us, we actually motored through all of that. And it just shows you that, ignorance is bliss until it's not. We eventually came into Hout Bay, and I had difficulty mooring her because that was, at that point in time, still something very alien to me. And you will realize that as soon as you have a boat, all of that excitement gives way to a little bit of panic. I didn't want to crash into other people's boats, obviously. I would rather choose to go into a marina if I had to. But eventually we succeeded, and somebody came along to take our lines, and we were settled in. So after the family left and everybody, I had a look at the yacht, and I had a look at the boat, and I was quite pleased with myself and the day's job so far. And then I opened the engine compartment just to have a look that everything was okay. And man, that engine was halfway flooded with water. Now remember, I'm a guy that when we looked at purchasing this boat, I asked the owner, I said, so where are the spark plugs? So I want to tell you that there are no stupid questions in this life. There's only good questions. That might have been a very stupid question to ask about a diesel engine, but that's the way that you learn. So I now know that they don't have any spark plugs. So we were halfway flooded in that engine compartment, and I was in panic. I had no idea what on earth was going on. So in my panic, instead of looking where the water was coming from, what's going on, I just started running around in the marina and looking for somebody to ask help. And eventually I got hold of a guy and I said, you know, I think I'm sinking. And he said, let me come and have a look. He came along and he just had literally a quick look for 20 seconds and he said, hey man, it's not a big deal, it's only your stern gland. And that has to leak because most of the boats are wet. I had no idea what this guy was talking about. So eventually he said, don't worry about it, I'll just get some tools. So came along with 2 monkey wrenches and he took the stern gland and he just did that. And the ingress of water stopped to a trickle, and he said, well, you know, this has to be a 1 drop per minute kind of thing, so I'm going to set it reasonably to be that. And then he explained to me what stern glands are, why they need to be wet, and that most boats were actually wet. So all of that was new to me, and he just showed me what to do if that started leaking more. And it was wonderful. So, you know, huge sigh of relief. So expect things like that. And the big thing about that from a psychological point of view is to always be open to receiving information from others. In this life you will learn a lot from doing so. I did most of my learning from other people. That's a tremendous way to actually improve your skills. The second trip was taking that boat from Hout Bay Harbour into Simonstown Harbour, and that meant going around the Cape of Storms at the Cape of Good Hope, which is a very, very treacherous place. We set out on our second trip, and again everything was okay. I decided not to take my mum on this one because it may become a bit hairy, and Madeleine decided to bring her brother along. So, you know, off we went, and again, you know, not a lot of wind, so we did a lot of motoring. Later on there was a bit of wind, so we just popped the jib out just to help us along. We were chucking along nicely, and there's a rock called Bellows Rock. As the swell comes into that rock, it will spew a lot of water in the air. It's quite an awesome sight. Now, we were quite close to Bellows, and my wife came out and said, the engine compartment is filling up with water. Now, we had a manual bilge pump, so immediately I was on that bilge pump starting to pump that water out. I had no idea why that bilge pump just decided to stop working. Now later on we found out that it was blocked by a bottle cap from a beer bottle that my wife's brother drank. Somehow he threw that bottle cap down that engine compartment, and it went ahead, and as I was pumping the bilges it came into that pipe and it stopped the bilge pump from working. She proceeded to take a big pot that you use for cooking, and she just went down there and got a lot of water and was throwing it out like that. So then we also learned that the best bilge pump is a panicked woman with a bucket, and that went quite fast. So she was up and down the stairs all the time, just throwing out water and throwing out water. And we eventually made it to Simonstown, and I had no idea why we were still taking on water. And eventually it turned out that as the stern gland works and as you start tightening that all the time, there will come a point where you have to replace the stern gland. And that was what was happening to us. So we just firmly secured that stern gland, and it had just a little bit of space left. So we knew that we had to come out on the dry to actually get those repairs done. So again, you learn a lot, and if in need, always remember to ask people. They will always assist, especially yachties. Thank you ever so much for listening. Have a great day.